Kyler Murray's contract was leaked yesterday. Let's do our own independent study today for 25 minutes. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals, live on a Tuesday. Here we go.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here, live on a Tuesday. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. You can also check me out on Thursdays with Tyler Rowland of Locked On Titans on the Locked On NFL National Show. I tweeted out a bunch of stuff yesterday, one of which was thanking the Arizona Cardinals for the content. Because just when you think things are slowing down, just when you think it's like, well, how are we going to put an angle on this story to make a podcast out of it? Something else drops, and yesterday was no different. Ian Rappaport tweeted first, I believe, a picture of a portion of Kyler Murray's contract that stipulated he had 4 hours a week of independent study on top of the film work that he does with the team during film hours. And there's so many different ways to look at this, mostly overblown all around. Okay. So on Twitter specifically, you can't tell the demeanor sometimes by which and through which people are tweeting. All right. You can't tell if it's sarcastic. You can't tell if it's, the world's ending. And sometimes people just take it as, oh, well, this is what I think that they meant. So I'm going to respond in a way that makes it look like how I wanted to, depict how you thought that you were saying that. This is laughable for so many different reasons. And I'm going to break down all of the reasons, and laughable has differing definitions. Okay. And I'm going to talk about Kyler Murray. I'm going to talk about Kliff. And I'm going to talk about the Arizona Cardinals. Segment 1, Segment 2, Segment 3. It's like a choose your own adventure, and you're starting each adventure with a different character. I think that's how those work. Okay. Kyler Murray first. Is this a bad look? For sure. Is it going to be lasting? Absolutely not. It's like a henna tattoo and not an actual tattoo. It's going to be there for a minute. It's going to be the brunt of jokes, but it's going to go away. And it does look, it's kind of, egg on your face now. Absolutely. But this doesn't mean that Kyler Murray doesn't prepare for games. This means, and I'll talk about in the third segment, Michael Bidwell protecting the biggest investment he's ever made. That's more of what this is. And I'll get to it then. So, couple things. Kyler Murray, does it look yucky? Does it look bad right now? Yeah. The 24-hour news cycle for news, sports, entertainment, whatever, this will wash away. And this will be a Saturday Night Live joke. This will be the butt of jokes when Cardinals lose games. But it's not going to have a lasting tattooed effect on Kyler Murray. It'll be a henna tattoo that'll wash off. Never gotten a henna tattoo, but I think that they just last a few days. I'm not exactly sure. Something you do to, I think. So, and I don't even know if they're called tattoos. I apologize if that's not the right terminology. But this is something that Kyler Murray is now going to have to deal with going into the season from a national perspective, from a local perspective, from a butt of jokes perspective, from the Cardinals lost by 10. Was he watching enough film perspective? But there is going to be noise around every quarterback in the NFL in some form or fashion, and this is going to be Kyler Murray's going into 2022. Okay? This is going to be his Sam Darnold, I saw ghosts when he was playing with the Jets. against the New England Patriots, and the Patriots absolutely demolished them. But it's not something that you look at a 24-year-old quarterback and you're like, oh, he'll never come back from this. This is terrible. He just got $104 million guaranteed. He's got upwards of $160 million guaranteed. If Michael Bidwell didn't want to give him the money, he wouldn't have. And that's something that needs to be remembered. If he didn't want to give him the money, he wouldn't have. That's what needs to be remembered. This clause wasn't the tipping point for him writing the biggest check he's ever written as the owner of the Arizona Cardinals. So, when people tweet out, oh, this is terrible, I knew that he wasn't a good leader, I know this is feeding the confirmation bias once again of whatever side of the aisle you're on. Whether it's a poorly run organization or you don't believe in Kyler Murray. All this does is strengthen what you already thought. So it doesn't matter. He's got to watch a little more film. Cool. Move the hell on. Hoping we'll be able to do so. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. I'm doing Kyler Murray, his perspective, segment 1. Kliff Kingsbury, segment 2. And then segment 3, the brass, Steve Keim and Michael Bidwell. When it's like, no other quarterbacks don't have this clause in their contracts. Like, it's funny on Twitter. Twitter's funny. Okay. Twitter's funny. And it's really been potent the last couple days where it's like, oh, I'm sure that it's going to be fine. You have no idea. That's not based on evidence. What's based on evidence is what we saw. There was a picture that Ian Rappaport tweeted out was that Kyler Murray had a clause in his contract that he had to watch a little more film once, every week. Okay. Now, you could go full conspiracy theorist. You can go full Kyler Murray truther and say, well, you know what? This is covering up for Steve Keim's inability to build out a full roster and Kliff Kingsbury's inability to win games when they count. You could say that. I won't. But you could say that this is Michael Bidwell protecting Steve Keim and Kliff Kingsbury. You could take that angle. I won't. Damn it. I won't. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Turn the notifications on so you know whenever we're popping up a video. It's going to be a lot of content this offseason, a lot of content through the season. Remember, I will be doing a live halftime show and post-game show every game. Join me. We can talk. We can cheer. We can commiserate. We can do whatever the emotions of that specific day will cater. But it's going to be fun. And if this offseason is any sort of indication about the swirl around the Arizona Cardinals organization for better or worse, buckle the hell up. Because it's going to be a fun 2022. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Again, follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. Kliff Kingsbury under a microscope as it pertains to the picture that came out via Ian Rappaport yesterday. Says Kyler Murray's got to watch more film. Is there any fault on Kliff for not being the leader that some question him not being? I'll talk about it next. First, there's no question that the Dave app can help. There's no question that the Dave app is not going to tell you to watch extra film. Dave is the banking app that can help you get up to $500 instantly with extra cash. Need a couple more gallons of gas? You got to buy a wedding present. You got an unexpected bill when you can't afford it. Dave's got you covered. More money to fill your tank. More money, like it's wedding season, right? Or it's almost over wedding season. Dave can help you with that. There's no interest, no credit check needed. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to get the financial relief they need with extra cash. Download the Dave app from the App Store right now. That's DAVE. Sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve, member FDIC. All right. Drop in the chat what you think about this. Because it's probably, again, much ado about nothing. And, I mean, as a human being, this is fun as hell to talk about. Talking about the avatar of a quarterback, the avatar of a head coach, the avatar of a general manager, and the owner of an organization. I do have to give this disclaimer once in a while. These are never personal attacks on the players. This is This is, or coaches for that matter. That's not in my blood. Like, this is about an employee of an organization. That's who I'm talking about, more of an avatar than the actual person themselves. Okay. And I think it's just important in this day and age, especially to clear that up from time to time, especially when I have sharp pointed thoughts on things. Does Kliff Kingsbury share any fault, any blame in this clause needing to be put in? You tell me. You tell me. I'm going to talk about Michael Bidwell in the third segment. You tell me. I've gotten a lot of responses saying, oh no, this is a Michael Bidwell thing. This is, why are people not talking about Michael Bidwell putting this in? It's his team. It's his contract. Well, Bucko, here's my retort. Because I do think that Kliff Kingsbury shares some of the blame pie here. Not a lot, but some. Because I know that technically Kliff Kingsbury wasn't hired to coach Kyler Murray, technically, but give me a break. He was brought in. They were going to draft Kyler Murray number 1 overall. They were going to run a college-style offense, and they were going to score 30 points a game. That was the plan. And it's worked. You know, numbers-wise, win-loss record since 2018 to now, it's worked, okay? And, it's a very important and. Kliff Kingsbury's relationship as a head coach to the quarterback of which he coaches, of whom he coaches, is different than pretty much every other quarterback head coach tandem in the NFL. Because Kliff Kingsbury, in my opinion, would not be head coach if they didn't draft Kyler Murray, if they weren't going to draft Kyler Murray. He wanted to coach Kyler Murray when that video came out when he was still at Texas Tech. So, because of that, Kliff Kingsbury's job is to mold Kyler Murray into a star NFL quarterback. And he's shown flashes of being able to do that. I think he's severely underperformed in that capacity for Kyler Murray's growth. And with that, if Kliff Kingsbury was doing his job and teaching Kyler Murray how to be an NFL quarterback, how to be a star, and kind of shorten the curve in an effort to do so, this clause wouldn't necessarily need to be in the damn contract. Again, this is not devoiding Kyler Murray of blame. I don't know where people get that. This is on the player. This is on Kyler Murray. Okay? It's not perfect. He's learning. He's getting better. He's got his faults. But I feel like Kliff Kingsbury is doing him a disservice by not doing what he was hired to do, partially, which is massage and grow Kyler Murray as a quarterback. I don't think he's doing a good enough job. And this clause may be a microcosm of that. Because I'll tell you, in my opinion, any NFL head coach that saw that clause could have said, oh, that wouldn't happen on my team. Woo, that makes me, oh, really? That's got to be in a contract? Yes, it's on Kyler Murray, and yes, it's on his head coach as well. Giving Kliff Kingsbury a free pass for this, and this has nothing to do, this specific instance has nothing to do with the on-the-field stuff that I question Kliff about. Because remember, as my camera goes out, Kliff Kingsbury has masterful moments as a head coach. Masterful moments. Like throw up out of excitement moments. He does. But I don't really go and because it's more positive. Somebody told me when you say but, it's more negative. You say and, you can still say a negative thing, but it sounds more, doesn't matter. But In this instance, this is the leadership that doesn't come with play calling. This is the leadership that is absolutely paramount for a team that needs stability from day one. That's why I'm worried about this. It's not the world is ending. People are going to forget about this. It's going to be a butt of jokes, okay? But at first glance, when the news is new, I was like, oh, Kyler. All right. Just one extra thing you got to add. 240 minutes a week. And, Kliff, you're partially responsible for letting it get to this. Thought one, thought two. Agree, disagree. At Clancy's Corner. Leave comments on Locked On Cardinals on YouTube. Love to have a conversation. That's what this is all about. Because this is projection. All of this. That's what sports media is. And I'm laying out different perspectives from different parts of this equation. Did Kyler in the first segment? Did Kliff now? I'm going to do the front office next. What drove them to this? It's not again, this is going to be much ado about nothing in 4 days when the news cycle completely resets. But what was going through Michael Bidwell and Steve Keim's minds with whoever came up with this genius idea to put this clause in the contract? I'm going to talk about it next, Locked On Cardinals. All right. Final segment, Locked On Cardinals. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. I love this. I love this. I love the conversation. I love the arguments, the disagreements, this is going to be an uncomfortable segment. So before I get into the actual, the P's and Q's of how this clause came to be from an ownership perspective of the Arizona Cardinals and Michael Bidwell, understanding why, and this didn't start here. This was probably mid-2020 season when the downturn started. That Kyler Murray is looked at as a bottom half of the league quarterback by a lot of people. And they'll cite, the downturn, it's on Kyler. Injury prone. Patrick Mahomes, I think, has missed more games than Kyler Murray has. Just, the leadership stuff, the type of demonstrative nature that he has at times on the sidelines, the lack of raw leadership that he has, things like that. And again, Kyler Murray is a work in progress, okay? I ask, do not look at other quarterbacks in the NFL. They have no bearing on the Arizona Cardinals at all. None. The Arizona Cardinals have the most losses by any franchise in football history. The Arizona Cardinals have more losses than any team in NFL history or in football history. And Kyler Murray was drafted in 2019 in an effort to change the narrative about this organization. And sure, the last 15, 17 years been a lot better than the previous. For sure. But the Bidwell culture is one that has bred the losingest franchise in the history of football. So, my question is, why are people still defending the front office more than Kyler Murray when all Kyler Murray has done is sparked Phoenix and the state of Arizona in a way we may have never seen from a young quarterback wearing his Arizona Cardinals uniform? That's what I don't understand. People are wanting perfection from a 24-year-old. Like, I don't get that. That part irks me. It baffles me. Now, again, front office, Steve Keim has made some great moves. Michael Bidwell obviously signed off because Steve Keim is his mouthpiece from the general manager position. But I don't understand why there's so much angst against Kyler Murray being the problem when all he's done is put this team on the map the last couple years. That's what I don't understand. Now, to the contract, why did Michael Bidwell put this in? A couple different possibilities, because he could. Because he's giving Kyler Murray $160 million guaranteed with injury and $104 million guaranteed signing. Okay, this clause ain't going to be the reason why this contract happens or not. So that needs to be, come back to me on that, okay? What I think is Kyler needs to watch more film, sure, 100%. Because I feel like that. Patrick Mahomes said he couldn't read an NFL defense until the midway through his second season. I think this is a power move by Michael Bidwell and nothing else. I'm going to pay you, but it's going to be on my terms to a T. To a T. Because I've never done this before. I'm assuming Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins was, and then Larry Fitzgerald got $100 million, 10 years ago or so. Don't quote me on that. It was around that time. But I feel like this was a power play. And this was my fault. I was definitely wrong about this. I did not, and I probably should have known, and I know now, that contracts are visible by some portion of media members. Okay, so that's my bad. I thought it got leaked. I apologize. I was wrong. But it just seems like this clause. I saw people on Twitter comparing this to you can't go skydiving during the off season. You can't go water skiing during the off season. Pretty much, you can't live your life during the off season if you're a professional athlete. That's not this. This is a control and because I can clause. Sure, there is some merit to it. Didn't have to be written. This is what brings me back to the definition of insanity. And believe it or not, I will be getting a hat made for the regular season with a hashtag DOI across the face that whenever the Cardinals act up, definition of insanity, I'll be wearing it. With an organization who has lost more games than any team since the inception of football. Maybe let something slide. Not the actual film watching, but the clause. Let it slide. You don't have to be in control of everything. Maybe try some wrong. Maybe try some wrong. Because you're right. Numbers speak for themselves. Washing all of this away, though, on a grand, scope is the wrong word. On a broad stroke overview look of what was dropped yesterday with the clause of independent study and camp starting, this will be a non-story in a week or less than that. The national TV shows have had their fun. You know what? People are going to forget it when the Cardinals put up a 30-burger week 1 against Kansas City and maybe eke out a win at home. And let me tell you this, and I'll leave you with this. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Thanks for hanging with me. I appreciate it. Kyler Murray's demeanor will be his greatest asset moving forward when he shoves a bunch of wins in the naysayers' faces who gawked when they saw this contract clause. He's not going to run his mouth. He's not going to say, I told you so. He's not going to do anything like that. What he's going to do is what he does now. The people question. He's going to be quiet. He's going to play his video games, and he's going to win football games and be a fringe top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Stamp it. Alex